Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be making a follow-up video about what I don't like about my Lincoln Town Car. And this is in response to the other video I made, as far as a follow-up goes, what I do like about it. And these are basically a yearly remakes of my original videos that were actually filmed at this very same lot. This is where my first ever and second ever video happened. And I find it, and of course, there's a plane. And the reason why I come here is that's where my channel started. You know, this plaza is still abandoned, just as it was a year and a half ago. There's still some sort of a sport gym slash bouncy house type of facility there for kids and adults. So yeah, I like to come out here. Usually nobody is here, nice and quiet. I can walk around and I can talk. So before you guys destroy me in the comments, calling me all sorts of names and all that good stuff that the internet is known for, let me tell you this much. It's very easy to talk about what I like about it, because what I like about it is just about what everybody else likes about these cars. They're unique, interesting, comfy, huge, all that good stuff. You know, the last of the dying breed, although it's probably already dead breed. So anyway, yeah, all that is good, but it's not easy to talk about what you don't like, because honestly, every time I do, I'm faced with a lot of criticism. Oh, you stupid, you know, that's how these cars were designed, that's how they're supposed to be. Well, you know, you live in the Midwest, that's why it's rusting. I live in Arizona, my car is like brand new underneath. All that good stuff is fine, but the way I think about it is, you know, this is a consumer product. Just like the GoPro I'm using to film this, just like the cell phone, you know, I'm a big fan of Samsung Galaxy Note phones. I've owned like 3 or 4 or 5 of them. Currently using the latest and greatest. And I'm going to keep buying them probably. I love it. But at the same time, there's got to be something that I don't like about it, which is true. You know, it's lack of battery. Battery dies pretty quickly. It's not as fast as advertised. Blah blah blah, all that stuff. You know, the stylus is not as useful as the commercial, let me believe. So when I'm about to talk about stuff that I don't like, you know, take it easy on me. You don't have to agree with me, that's okay, but at the same time, I'm gonna tell you that that's mine and mine only experience and expectation of the car, and when something is not up to my standard, it's only my standard. It doesn't have to be your standard. So anyway, here we go. The first and foremost thing that I don't like about these cars is the fact that they're known as the grandma and grandpa cars. All of them. All the Grand Marquis, even the Crown Victorias. You know, nobody give these cars respect that they deserve. Now, you can argue, well, you know, it's a human, it's not a machine factor. But if you look at this vehicle, I mean, there's nothing about it that really screams modern. Which, keep in mind, I like that, but at the same time, the perception, you know, the perception of the old person car, yeah, I kind of don't like about it. I wish that these were more desirable, because if they were more desirable, just in general, they would probably still be made today. Just, you know, think of a Mustang, right? We still have Mustangs today from decades ago. Even, you know, they decided to keep the Fusion, because, you know, for whatever reason, they're still desirable and they're still being sold. And they're still being bought, I should say. These cars, I mean, they had good run, but they were never really desirable, and that's why they kind of let him hang. They sold enough of them to justify it. They've introduced a very limited number of updates from, you know, I mean, this is 06, but since 03 through 2011, when this body style was introduced, you know, barely any changes, because they just be like, hey, let's just keep making them, right? As long as we make a profit, as long as this. And so they never made them really desirable vehicle for the very few. All right, so that's one. By the way, these are not in any order. All right, number 2, the sizing proportion. Now, keep in mind, I love big cars. I mean, I bought this car after all, I know, but pretty awkward use of space. And the reason for that is, okay, so we have the hood, right? We have the middle of the car, and then we have the trunk. For such a huge car, you have such a huge hood, such a huge trunk, and with a ton of trunk space, but the actual interior space is not that good. And here's what I mean by that. Now, I'm 5'11". No, got the keys in here. I fit just fine. Here, let's put them here. I fit just fine. So here, see my classy outfit when it's like 90 degrees outside. Now, for such a huge car, for me to fit here comfortably, I gotta move the pedals all the way out, you know, all the way forward. The seat is all the way back. So, now the back side, the back of it, is all the way up front. All right, so this is how I drive. That seems to be my most comfy position. Now the steering wheel is also all the way up, right? So you can see you can move it kind of up and down. All right, so there you go. So, but keep in mind, this is a huge car. Look at that nose, right? So for a 5'11" person, in order for me to be comfortable, the pedals got to be all the way out, the seat all the way back, the steering wheel all the way up. So the bottom line is, for somebody who is any taller than me, that means that there's going to be sacrifices to be made. That means, you know, now keep in mind, I understand everybody has a different driving position. I could probably recline a little more if I have longer arms, and yeah, I mean, I could do the lean, but at this point I can't really reach the steering wheel, so I gotta move out of the way. But I'm talking about like the leg space, right? So anybody taller than me will have to start, you know, putting their legs a little bit in a more bent position. Now this is great, the fact that there's you know, nothing really blocking my way here, so I can move my knees just about anywhere. And also right here, this material is soft, so if my knees bump against this is nice and soft. Great. But at the same time, this car should have had probably a lot more room than it has on the interior. Now, I know I mentioned this before several other times, and keep in mind, I didn't watch my original What I Don't Like About It video, but check this out. Now here, once again, the way I would sit here, I have some room, but not a ton of room. And also I have to drive my 5-year-old the way like this, with the seat all the way forward, limo style, so he doesn't kick the seat. So what I'm trying to tell you that is that it's great to have a big car, but it does not really translate into a ton of space. Now I know what you're thinking. That's why they made a signature L, or the executive L. So you get everything like that, but you get a lot more room on the inside. But what I'm saying is, for every one signature at executive L they sold a lot more of these. So this is your mainstream car that's huge all over the place, but the interior space, they could have extended it probably up to here. There's a ton of room underneath, so it's not like there's no room. It's not like there's no room here. I mean, we all know that. And by the way, I'm not thinking that this video is gonna be anything groundbreaking to anyone, but there's tons of room, right? Tons of room here. So you could move. I mean, look at this. Tons of space. So you could have moved this stuff around. Could have made a lot more room there. Also the trunk. We all know the trunk, right? We all know the huge, enormous trunk that these cars are known for. I've made videos about putting, I think, some sort of a crate or plywood in there. I don't even remember what I did. But yeah, we all know that. But here, look at all the stuff that I've been carrying around. Some for work, some for some other video I'm going to be shooting. You know, I got the famous shelf, blah, blah, blah. But you don't need that. Even if the trunk came out to here, like if you didn't have that shelf, that would have made so much room, so much more room, and the trunk would have been just, oh, I mean, a little less, but just as huge. So that's what I don't like about it. Inefficient use of space for such a huge car. All right. Now this video might be broken down into 2 parts. So, all right. Let's talk about, you know, I didn't have a list or anything, so I'm just talking as I'm thinking this up. Once I lifted the hood, let's talk about all the ways that these cars can leak. Now, I made several videos about this whole thing, right? About how this leaked on my car, which I fixed, plenty of videos on that. How that leaked on this side with my little repair stuff here. How my sunroof leaked, but I'm not even gonna count that against it because that was a gasket issue. I mean, any car with a sunroof or a door gasket, a lot of that can leak. That's not what I'm saying. But this car has these cars have so many ways that these things can leak. That's inherent to, dare I say, bad design. Like, I as an owner shouldn't really be worried about cleaning out this little gutter thing situation because of a bad design. And that's, I don't know how else to call it. I mean, no other car has that. I didn't have to clean this on any other car that I ever owned. And honestly, I didn't even know about this until it happened, and I started looking it up, and now I know that that's a thing, and now I keep an eye on it. As you can see, it's nice and clean. But even now, like, look, some leaves fell in there because this whole area serves as a water dissipation device. So again, to me, this is a bad design, because you don't take care of that, that's gonna leak. Now, another thing that's pretty bad is right here. We're still on the subject of leaking. This little hole that's now nice and clean because I know that it exists. But if I, as an owner, don't clean that out, the water will, it won't really leak, but it'll collect in here and rust this thing out. These channels that are right in the, in the trunk, when the water goes in, the channels that go through it, if there's some debris in there, water will start collecting here and somehow leak in the trunk. And there's probably other stuff that I don't even know. Oh, forgot about the whole this thing. These gaskets that form as a little rain channel, that if this thing gets clogged, I'm gonna have water slushing around in the gasket and it can somehow leak inside. And there's probably other stuff that I'm missing. So what I'm trying to say is there's 50 different ways that this car can leak, and it's not because of bad maintenance. It's because just how these things are made or were made. And I don't know if it's just an older style of a design. I don't really know. But I think that it's very weird that it's got so many different ways. Like, if one thing goes wrong, you're gonna end up with water inside. And no other car, to my knowledge, and I've owned older cars too, I never had this issue with any other car. So there's that. All right. Let's talk about a few more. Now, I personally like how this car looks. I know I just mentioned the fact that it looks like an old person's car, and that's how it's been treated. But I also think that as a flagship sedan, when it was obviously the flagship sedan, I don't think they made it luxury enough and used good enough material to kind of give it that name. So, and it's really attention to details that kind of really bothers me. Is that, here we go. Yes, it's a 15-year-old car. I get it that things have changed. But it doesn't feel like, if we roll back the clock back to 2006 or even, 2010, I think, when this thing was still considered top of the line in lineup. And here's what we have. And I mentioned this before, I know. Attention to details. This is black, the car is silver. If this was red, that thing would have been black. So that's one thing. Corrosion that happened on the rims. Now, I'm filming this after my repair with Flex Seal. It's been probably over a month, I think, since I did this. It looks pretty good. But once again, on a top-of-the-line car, couldn't have used some sort of better material, some sort of a sealant or clear coat where it wouldn't rot, right? So that's another thing. Now, I know a lot of manufacturers did the same thing. It's not a Ford thing. But once again, if you're trying to make a fully loaded, top-of-the-line vehicle for the time, it should feel like top-of-the-line. So, that's again, these badges. Why are they so cheap? Why did they even stick them here? Now, okay, it's unique, granted, but once again, this looks to me pretty cheap. All right, let's go inside. Why couldn't they make seats that do not sink in? Right, so mine has been repaired already. I have plenty of videos on that, but I've been inside so many of these things where it just bottoms out. So again, now you can argue the fact that somebody who weighs 400 or 500 pounds sat in them, but so many, I mean, mine was destroyed. I've sat in so many different other town cars. That's an inherently bad design. They could have made the foam and those rails and that hammock material different, so it wouldn't have do that. Not so good material for the interior. Now, I remember I mentioned this before. What is this? Right? These panels that pop out, once again, you can argue that this is only on my car, but I've been inside a lot of these where these panels, probably because this material gets deformed over time and the plastic is brittle, these things pop. Now, somebody fixed it before I bought it with some Gorilla Glue, questionable material, but they did it. All right, these door pulls, so many of them become flimsy and fall off. Once again, it's a bad design. The whole, you know, inside look, now I personally don't object to the 2006 technology, but once again, this was a fully loaded, now this is a Signature Limited. I know they had a designer series with a little different material, but and fog lights, but as far as material, I mean, all of them were like this material. It's a little soft, but it's not too comfy. A lot of plastic. Obviously, everything here is plastic wood. You know, even this tray. You know, is this a mark here? Is this a mark of a, you know, of a luxury, fully loaded car, top of the line? I don't think so. You know, that's what I mean. Now, keep in mind, like I said, I'm driving, I'm using it. I live with it. I bought it. But I also think like there could have been a lot better job done here. All right, let's talk about the last thing. The fact that this is considered a quote-unquote a 6-passenger car. Yeah, forget about it. I know there will be a few of you that say, well, I use it as a 6-passenger. But let's talk about majority of the people. All right, so let's move this back. All right, and obviously, all right. Oh, look. Somebody else is like test driving their car here on this lot. All right, so here, let's move this. You know, I don't know of many people whose butts is this big, okay? Now, if you put a kid in here, it's possible, I know. I made a video, I put my nephew, who was, I think, 11 at the time. Yeah, the whole safety idea, yeah. And I know, they could have changed it, right? They could have changed this seat. You know, I don't know anybody's back that's this wide. So they could have just marketed it as a 5-passenger car. They could have made this into a normal armrest, right? And they could have just, you know, done a better job with that packaging. The one last thing, and I promise I'm gonna cut it. Lack of interior space. Now I've talked about it several different times already in different videos, but first and foremost, all right, let's talk about this. Here, I'm gonna close it. All right, this storage is great, but it's only about this wide, and the only thing I could find to keep in there is the phone charger. These little slot things, yeah, I mean, it doesn't, the water bottle will not fit in there. I mean, a wallet might, so we're talking this much space in the door. No sunglasses holder, and I've tried putting sunglasses in there, they rattle. And by the way, the whole quality thing, right? I mentioned this in another video. Right here, you do get a glove box, not particularly good one, but it is a glove box nonetheless. So that's one main, that's actually the only main one. This stuff right here, I mean, this is what I was able to keep in there. You know, my hand sanitizer from our COVID era, actually 2 pairs of sunglasses, mask, and a little thing here. Now, I know you can remove these things. Luckily, mine came with it. You know, the coin holder. But what I'm trying to say is, there's not a whole lot of room. So had they get rid of this middle seat, you know, when they realized how kind of useless it is, and, you know, when you don't have an airbag in the middle, and anyway, how many people would actually use this as an actual 6-passenger car? They could have just made this solid and made the storage go all the way down, or do what they did on a Cadillac DTS and actually made that bottom thing pull up, which I don't understand why they didn't do that to begin with. And they could have made this into storage. All right, so lack of storage for, once again, such a huge car. All right, everybody, that's about all I can think of at this moment. I'm not trying to piss anybody off, but keep in mind, like I said, this is my opinion. It doesn't mean I'm not a journalist, I'm not an authority. There's got to be good reasons why they made it like the way they did, and one of the reasons is probably this design. You know, it's from the 90s or even from the 80s, so they've done periodic changes here and there, but they thought that they could just keep making these things forever, and at some point the numbers just didn't make sense for them, so they discontinued, and now we're stuck with this. So, all right, Hope you guys enjoy it. Don't judge too harshly, and we'll see you next time.